Hey guys, welcome back to our Revelation Space podcast. I'm Kaylee.
And I'm Trevor.
And today we're going to start off with chapter 8.
Doing a quick recap. Last time we left off with Curry and Volyova on their way to meet Sylveste. And Sylveste and Pascal just got married, except there was a party pooper. And they killed pretty much everyone there. And so they ran into the alien city, and now they're on the run.
So we remember Curry has this brain implant, and the Mademoiselle is talking to her. So the Mademoiselle is saying that she still wants her to kill Dan, but not only does she want her to kill her, and like she knows that she's dead because of the implant, but she also wants physical proof beyond just ashes and stuff.
And the recording. Yeah, and so she's like, oh, well, they're going to bring him aboard the ship. And she's like, under no circumstances can you let him get aboard this light hugger. You need to definitely get rid of him before that, because it's going to be a problem. But she just isn't explaining it to Curry, so she doesn't really know. So
it mentions bloodhounds sniffing in the gunnery.
The Mademoiselle, the implant, released bloodhounds out into the gunnery machinery. And so I thought it meant like actual dog. I was so confused the first time I read this.
There is in fact no physical bloodhound.
It actually means like bloodhounds is in programs meant to sniff out things in the programming. And so when she says the bloodhounds came back, it's the virus finding program came back. It tells of how these bloodhounds actually found something in the gunnery system, and Curry's like, is it just like a virus? And she's like, no, it seems a little bit more complex than that. And this is actually catching the Mademoiselle off guard. She's like, she doesn't really know how to handle this, because remember, this isn't the actual Mademoiselle. This is just like a copy implanted into her. So this one isn't the real one, so it's just working off its program. It's a little bit out of its field here.
What virus is it looking for then? Or what is it looking for?
It was just looking for like any rogue software, anything that could harm Curry, or it was just kind of doing some general snooping, I'd say. But it found something that I didn't expect to find.
Okay.
Getting back to Sylveste and his new wife, Pascal.
They're not that serious.
They have chemistry. I know some people might not think so, but I think they got chemistry. Any mahoodle. They run off into the labyrinth, and Pascal is obviously pretty scared by this, but...
And she's thinking about her dead dad.
That is a thing that she's dealing with at the moment. But not to fear, Sylveste is here. And he has magic eyes that let him see in the dark. But he starts contemplating, what if this wasn't just an assassination attempt? What if the whole government has been overthrown by these true pathers? His enemy has been killed, although he just married his enemy's daughter, so were they even enemies in the end? And how would that put him in relation to a new government?
Personal thoughts on this author before I talk about this section. I don't like how they turned Pascal into like some puppy dog following Dan around. Like the second they get married, she becomes some helpless. She becomes some helpless woman. And she doesn't become Pascal anymore. She's now referred to as his wife, or Dan's wife. So I have some negative feelings about Alastair Reynolds.
Oh my goodness.
It's
okay.
True. Wasn't Pascal brought up? She was built up as like this good female character, or just a character in general. Exactly. I mean, and now she's just Dan's wife.
Okay.
Anyway, she decides that now is the perfect time to confess some secrets, right when they're like in the middle of something.
Hold your horses. It's Dan Sylveste referring to Pascal as his wife, and it's only doing it right now because they were just married. It's more emphasizing that they were just married and now they're on the run. I don't think they're going to refer to Pascal as Dan's wife the entire book. I think it's just like momentarily. Also,
Listen, I understand that her dad died, so she's a little more like fragile.
Her dad died, and they're being pursued right now, which Sylveste is scared, but Pascal can't see. She's like in pitch black, and Dan can see, so it kind of makes sense to just follow the person who can see in the dark.
So the author made Dan the savior in this section, is what I'm saying.
In this situation.
You know, poor little helpless, fragile woman wife needs to follow around big buff Dan.
I think you just want Pascal. I think you want to be the big buff man.
Pascal, if it were up to me, none of this would have happened.
I think you're simping for Pascal a little bit. Anyways.
What is it that she thinks it's so important to talk about in this moment?
It is Dan Sylveste doing the confessing.
Right. So what is it?
Oh, so Dan has a confession to make. So you know how Pascal, she did this biography on him when he was a captive, and so when she did the interview, he told her what happened around Lascal's shroud, about how his partner Lefebvre died around the shroud for him, and it's how he made an escape through her noble sacrifice. But what he reveals is that in actuality, she did not actually save him. He saved himself and doomed her. So it's kind of showing that Dan Sylveste is not the best guy, or at least he made some questionable decision. He said he was scared, and that's commendable that he recognizes that he has flaws. He has flaws. He can say, I was scared, and he can tell the truth, but like, dang, he kind of just let a person die, didn't he? And right after he gets his confession out, he gets shot in the face. Supposedly.
He feels a
allegedly
sharp pain in his head.
In his eyeballs. Foreshadowing. So this is going to be a two-parter, or maybe a three-parter episode, because these few chapters are short. So I think we're going to, slam-wham a few chapters into one episode. What do you say?
We left off with the very suspenseful shot to the head, shot to the eyes, and so this chapter opens up with Dan having no eyes that got burned off by the person shooting him.
Yeah, because they were like robo camera eyes, and so they've been short-circuited pretty much, or like overloaded. So now he is basically a blind man, and they've both been captured by a true path, and they say they've overthrew the government, but that's not the real suspense moment. It comes when it's revealed that Suka is actually in control of the government, or at least to a degree. She's like, "Do you remember me, Dan?" And yeah, it's the scientist that they said got buried in the landslide in the first chapter all the way back. So
I liked her. I remember.
You liked her. She was sassy.
Who died? Remember?
Died, quote unquote.
So did she plan it then? Was it all a plan?
Was it all elaborate? Wait a second.
And everyone who came with her, are they alive too, or was it all just
part of
her plan to make it more believable?
Did she live, or did her whole crew live?
Finally, a female character who is a baddie.
Volyova's a baddie.
Volyova isn't in this section yet, though.
Okay, fair enough. Yes. And so Suka, she survived. So I wonder, how far back does her plan to overthrow the government go? Does it
How long has it been since her death, though? It's been a really long time.
10 years, over 10 years.
Exactly. Did she know anything about the obelisk then? Because she left before they even dug it up.
I think she left as they were dead.
As they were doing it, but they only learned about it years later when they were actually digging it up after her death. So maybe her plan has nothing to do with the sun stealer information. So Danathan is getting his eyesight back, except he lost his color perception. Now it's all monochrome.
So let me set the scene for where we're at with Volyova and the crew. So Volyova is the only one awake now because she put Curry to sleep for the long haul, light years over to Resurgam. It's going to take about 2 years for them to get there ship time, but it's going to take about 20 years for them to get there, and it's 20 light years away, but they're only going to experience 2 years because of relativity. Now,
So since everyone's back to sleep, Volyova goes back to talking to the captain every once in a while, like defrosting him. Obviously, every single time that she talks to him, his little plague gets worse, same with everything around him, so she tries to do it less frequently, but every time she does, he always ends up asking about Dan and their progress, which he gets disappointed, of course.
Because they're trying to cure him by getting Dan, and so he's like, oh, nope, next star system, another 20 years of having space cancer. But they
also, she mentions how she noticed, what was it?
Sajaki?
Sajaki's like personality change, kind of.
Ever since they visited the jugglers. And remember, the jugglers are like this alien kind of pond scum. We haven't talked about them, but yeah, basically a biomass that can put traits or change the brain chemistry of a person. And so she's like, why did he become different? Because he used to be nicer, but now he's more ruthless, he's more aggressive. So she's like, something happened to him. And they're very dodgy, the captain and Sajaki. They really don't want to answer any questions about it.
Also, she mentions how there's this weapon, right? Weapon that got moved.
Oh, yeah, a cache weapon. She's like, that's not really where I put that. We have a problem.
Then it switches over to Curry and the Mademoiselle. And Curry actually wakes up from this sleep because of the Mademoiselle. And she brings up the bloodhounds again. And what was it that they found? They
found that thing, that virus, that whatever was hiding in the gunnery. They're saying that the gunnery is a closed off system. And so the gunnery cannot talk to the ship, only the ship can talk to the gunnery. So she's like, whatever's in this gunnery has been trapped there. And they cross-reference dates. And they're like, oh, about 90 years ago, something got into there, and it hasn't been able to leave. And it coincides with when Sylveste was abducted above the ship the first time they needed the captain to be healed. Now, that means a few things. Whatever's in this gunnery had something to do with Sylveste. And what does she say about what that was in that gunnery? Why, she mentions a little thing called Sun Stealer. And so now Dan Sylveste is linked to Sun Stealer getting onto the ship.
The Sun Stealer is now inside of Curry. When Curry was saying that, remembers back to Volyova asking her if she had any dreams or started hearing anything about a Sun Stealer. And Curry's saying, oh yeah, I've heard this name in my dreams. So Sun Stealer escaped, like got in the Bloodhound, kind of used the Bloodhounds to escape
in the cyber program and hitched a ride back in to Curry's head.
Mademoiselle is talking more about the Sun Stealer with Curry, and
she's telling her about this neural war that's going on inside of her brain right now, and that it's probably going to alert Volyova. That's probably the least of her problems, as Sun Stealer is trying to take over her brain, and the only thing stopping him is the Mademoiselle and the implant. So this just comes out of nowhere. Like, she's just woken up in the middle of like the sleep. 1 minute she's fine, next minute, hey, you've got an alien, like something in your head. And so she just mentions how she inserted herself into the gunnery as well. Because, you know, if Sunset came from the gunnery, why can't she go into the gunnery and try and fight him there? I guess is the reasoning. And it explains how Nogormi went crazy because Nogormi didn't have like the implant that she has. So if this implant fails, she might be going the way of Nogormi.
So we finish off this chapter back with Dan. Still captured, kind of in prison once again, just talking about his vision and how he's only seeing like a greenish gray color.
A good doctor fixes his eyes for him.
He's got like a glitchy kind of vision too, only seeing like a couple frames.
Yeah, like just like a stop motion kind of thing, but like really bad.
Right, so how is this gonna affect him in the future? He doesn't have like the same abilities as he used to, kind of.
That was kind of his thing. His thing was like having nice eyeballs.
Right.
Nice eye computers.
Does this have anything to do with Calvin? Nah, okay.
Maybe, I don't know. You know.
That's their connection.
What is the connection? I'd like to hear more about that.
Oh. Well, come back next chapter.
No.
Next
Tell
episode.
me right now.
Anyway, guys, come back for next episode.
'Cause that's all we got for this one. What's going to happen next? I feel like we ask this every time. What is your predictions?
Feel like Curry. Well, first of all, Curry's got like the Sun Stealer thing going on for her right now, so that's pretty exciting. Don't think she's gonna go as crazy as Nagormi. That would kind of defeat the point of her character.
Would
you
it?
know, that's why she's here in the first place.
To go crazy.
To go crazy, Mademoiselle might have to do something with it.
Go stupid, go crazy.
Volyova, once again, lonely, poor lonely gal, all alone.
I think she likes being alone.
She needs the comfort of a strong woman such as myself. Anyway, Dan is on the same level as everybody else, pretty useless now. Pascal, more to come on Pascal, hopefully.
So you like Dan, kind of. Now that he's an average schmuck, do you feel bad?
I like Dan when he was a hard worker. That's what I wanted to do, work.
Be the
architecture, yeah.
Stop being
archaeologist,
crazy.
yeah.
Stop dating all the women.
Exactly.